There have been times over the last few months when, needless to say, it felt like today might never come. But here we are. We made it. It's Election Day. But you got to keep in mind there are more than just people and parties on the ballot. Our next guest has some insight into some issues on the ballot for Missouri voters. Ed Herman is with the law firm Brown & Crouppen. Ooh, Ed, we got some hot button ones here. We're talking term limits and redistricting, both issues in front of Missouri voters today. Let's start with Amendment 1 and term limits. What do we need to know here?
Basically, what you need to know is this, is in the state of Missouri, currently, we do have term limits for our governor and for our state treasurer, but the other statewide offices like Attorney General and Lieutenant Governor, Secretary of State, they don't have any term limits right now. Now, generally, this hasn't been particularly abused in our state. I can't remember off the top of my head anybody that held any one of those positions forever, but that said, this is really personal preference. If you'd like to limit each of our attorney generals and each of our secretary of states to a maximum of 2 terms, each term being 4 years, this is your opportunity to change that law in Missouri, and you can vote yes for that if you're in favor of the term limits. If you're not, you can vote no. Some people will tell you that in certain roles, it's nice to have somebody who is experienced and doesn't have to constantly start from scratch every 4 years, build on their prior successes. But, this is really just boils down to where your personal preferences are.
Yep, fairly cut and dried in that way. Unlike, in my opinion, Amendment 3, which is much more nuanced. There's a lot more to it. It would repeal the Clean Missouri Amendment. Explain Clean Missouri for us and what the proponents and opponents of repealing that are saying.
2 years ago, this was put in front of the Missouri voters, Clean Missouri, whether we wanted it or not. And Missouri voters voted overwhelmingly in favor of it. It was not a partisan issue. 62% of Missourians voted in favor of it. That's a landslide victory. And what it basically did was it called for fair rules as it related to how the districts were drawn, so that you'd have competitive races in the various districts, and a few other provisions as it were, took care of keeping campaigning fair and things that you take from lobbyists to keep it under control. And the people loved it. Unfortunately, there are a couple of people in the powers that be who feel like Missourians, they didn't want what they thought they wanted, even though it's only been 2 years ago. And what they've done is they've written up Amendment 3 to basically repeal the will of what Missouri wanted 2 years ago. And on this one, and listen, I would encourage everybody to do your own research, vote the way that you think you should vote for. But as somebody who follows this very closely and I feel has some expertise in this area, I can tell you that me and everybody that I know is voting no on Amendment 3, simply because the Missouri voters had their say in this and overwhelmingly wanted one thing. And now certain powerful people are trying to take away the will of Missouri. So, but that's, again, I don't want to impose that on anybody. I'm just sharing how me and everybody I know in the legal world is voting. And people, but do your own research.
You got it. At the end of the day, that is key. You got to make your own decisions. But Ed, we always appreciate your insight. Stay safe, okay?
Yeah, you too.
All right. If you'd like to get in touch with Brown & Crouppen, you can call them anytime, 314-222-2222, or check out their website. That would be getbc.com.